Sri Lanka. Once a year, it plays host to a mysterious spectacle of mammoth proportions. Wild Asian elephants emerge from dense forests to gather in vast numbers on the open grasslands. Why are they gathering? And could this amazing spectacle be under threat? Both man and beast must learn to live together if they're to continue an ancient relationship and preserve the extraordinary display that is the Great Elephant Gathering. From within the tropical forests of central Sri Lanka, wild giants appear. The Sri Lankan elephant is considered a unique subspecies of the Asian elephant. For most of the year, they roam as separate family groups or individuals. And then, mysteriously, they begin gathering, almost on cue, on the shores of lakes like Mineria and Kaudula. Here, in plain sight, they play, socialize, and even mate. It's a rare, natural phenomenon that lasts all but 2 months. There are few places on Earth where wild Asian elephants gather in such concentrated numbers. And even fewer places where you can get up close and personal to a gathering. But most of all, it's a privileged opportunity to witness one of the world's most beautiful natural displays. No one is quite sure why these Asian elephants gather. How do they time their gathering? Is it a migration pattern? And why are they leaving the abundance of fertile forests for the lake? Even more mysteriously, the gathering at Lake Mineria and Kaudula is not the only one. About 300 kilometers south, at a small lake near the southern port city of Hambantota, some 80 wild elephants are beginning to gather. Every year, without fail, this large family regroups at the reservoir for the local community. What's more, at hundreds of lakes across the country, gatherings are taking place. It's easy to assume that this behavior must have something to do with the lakes themselves. Amazingly, all of Sri Lanka's lakes are man-made. Sri Lanka is a tropical country with long dry spells in the central zones. Since ancient times, it had no natural lakes. The combination of hot weather and a growing human population caused water shortages throughout the kingdom. The ancient kings created a solution. Though Sri Lanka lacked large stores of water on the ground, it had plenty from the sky in the wet season. So they ordered the construction of gigantic water tanks to store the rainfall. The ingenious reservoirs remain even today, in the shape of Lake Mineria and Caudula, where wild elephants gather annually. Over the decades, tens of thousands of man-made lakes were built across Sri Lanka. And Sri Lankan elephants were used heavily to make the projects a reality, beginning the close relationship between man and elephant we still see today. Today, the most symbolic celebration of that bond can be seen at the Perahera procession in Kandy, Sri Lanka's ancient capital. The Perahera was originally a ritual to request rainfall, but became a Buddhist procession of the sacred tooth relic. It's believed that the tooth was retrieved from the cremated remains of Buddha, and whoever possessed it had a divine right to rule the land.
අපේ රටේ සිංහල සංස්කෘතියත් සමග බොහොම බැඳීමක් තියෙන මේ අලියත්තු කියන එක. ඒ පෙරහැරත් මූලිකම වෙන්නේ හස්තියෙක්. ඒ හස්තියගේ පිට තමයි අපේ සදාතුක කණ්ඩුව වඩම්මවාගෙන යන්නේ.
Traditionally, only a select male elephant with the most impressive tusks gets to carry the tooth relic during the parade. It's a rare honor, not just because of the relic. Only 5% of Sri Lankan elephants have tusks, the likely result of natural selection against tuskers. Today, the sacred tooth relic is stored in a secured location, and a substitute called the relic casket is used in place of it. The relic casket is carefully strapped to the top of the elephant. Once the job is done, and at an auspicious time kept secret by the priests until the last moment, the procession goes into full swing. Despite this shining example of Sri Lankans' close relationship with Asian elephants, there are bigger forces at play that threaten to sever the tie. Sri Lanka has the largest concentration of wild Asian elephants in the world, numbering some 4,000 to 5,000 strong across a land area measuring only 65,000 square kilometers. But even that counts for nothing when you're fighting for living space with more than 20 million people. An exploding Sri Lankan population is now the Asian elephant's #1 enemy. Could unlocking the riddle of the mysterious gatherings help solve the conflict. As the days go by, more and more wild elephants emerge from the forest to join the unusual gatherings at Sri Lanka's lakes. According to ancient history, they could have been doing this for thousands of years. Yet we still know very little about why they do it. Each year, local scientists gather, just like the elephants, hoping to find the answer. One thing they now know for certain is that the gatherings take place only during the dry season each year, hitting record numbers over the months of August and September. At the forefront of the scientific work done on the elephant gathering is Manori Gunawardena, whose main area of research is Lake Mineria and Kardula. It's her life's work to conserve what she considers a magnificent mammal.
There's so little research done on Asian elephants, and especially elephant behavior, is because, in essence, they're not visible all the time. Most of the time, they're off in the bushes and they're invisible.
Seeing the elephants behaving normally out in the open has provided Manori with an amazing opportunity to uncover a great deal about their ecology, especially their complex social structures and behaviors. A group of older juveniles begins surrounding a younger juvenile. What looks like a game is often called corralling. Corralling babies is a very important skill to have as adult elephants. They need to be able to lead babies into the middle of a group and walk away from threats.
Play is very, very important in all social animals. Children play a lot. That's how they learn social skills, life skills. It's the same with elephants. And they're having fun doing it, too.
After playtime is over, it's feeding time. This part of the gathering reveals something else scientists don't see very often in the wild. Two calves suckling at the same time from a single female. Usually, mothers allow only one calf to suckle at any one time. For this mother, it could be providing care for an orphaned calf besides her own. A case of allo-mothering, where a female in the herd helps tend to another's young. It again suggests that elephants possess individual traits, making personal choices as well as following group ones. Besides revealing unusual behaviors, Lake Mineria and Kardula's mysterious elephant gathering also provides a rare opportunity to see one of nature's most spectacular displays. Elephant bulls sparring. Bulls spar from a very young age. They do this to test their strength against one another. And the uncanny thing is, they actually remember how well they fare against each other. In fact, when bulls meet in later years to compete for females, they appear to avoid battles with stronger opponents that they recall from these playground skirmishes. When male elephants reach sexual maturity, they periodically display a reproductive condition called must. During must, the level of testosterone in males rises exponentially, up to 60 times the normal level. When in must, secretions ooze from the male's temporal glands, giving the appearance of a head wound. At this stage, their behavior is erratic and can be very dangerous to humans. They also emit a very pungent and distinctive aroma and constantly dribble urine on their legs. The lone must bull approaches a herd, scenting each female's genitals. The females respond by urinating, which the bull tastes. This allows him to check for pheromones and reproductive hormones, clues to whether the females are at the right stage of their reproductive cycle. But this process is not always a one-way street. Some females will completely ignore the male. One theory is that the female checks out a male's eligibility through the strength of his must scent. Even if she's in season, a female will reject potential males. That is, until she finds what she's been looking for. Over the years, the gathering at Lake Mineria and Kaudula has also revealed something more troubling to Manuri. Disturbing signs that indicate a worsening relationship between man and beast.
We have a tusker here with what looks like pellet injuries in the lower parts of the forelegs. Most likely from a trap gun.
If Manuri is right, someone shot this male elephant. But why the violent act? It was quite likely the result of man's territorial instincts and not the elephant's. As cities and farmlands expand in Sri Lanka, the elephant's home ranges shrink, and the territories marked out by man mean nothing to an elephant. All they know is the pain it inflicts. This 8,000-volt barrier has been placed around a property to keep elephants out. For those who lack the resources to install electric fences, a basic elephant early warning system is used. But does it really work? This large male elephant seems unfazed by the small firecrackers. Soon, the men resort to throwing even bigger ones. This time, it works. unfortunate result of this exercise is that when the big firecrackers stop working, the shotguns come out. With such growing aggression from humans, tragedy is inevitable. At a house in Sri Lanka's central Martale district, a local woodcarver was killed by a sudden and violent attack from a male elephant. 30-year-old G. Ananda witnessed the terrible event.
අලියා ගමේ ඉස්සරම ගමට ඇතුල් වෙනත් එක්කම ඇවිල්ලා ඉස්සරම ගෙදරකට අලියා ගැහුවා. ඊට පස්සේ ගෙදර කට්ටිය කෑ ගහලා එලව ගත්තට පස්සේ අලියා පාර දිගම මෙහෙට ආවා. ඇවිල්ලා මෙයා දොර අරිනවත් මේ සද්දෙට දොර ඇරලා තිනවා. අරිනවත් එම අලියා ඇවිල්ලා එකපාරම මේකට ගහලා තිනවා. ඊට පස්සේ දොර අරගෙන පැනලා තිනවා. පස්සේ අනිත් එක්කෙනත් පයින්වත් එක්කම අර දිව්වා පිටිපස්සෙන් පැනපෙක්කන අහුණා. හොඳේ මෙහෙම ඇනලා පයින් ගහලා මේ කියන්නේ අතෙන් ගහලා ඉවරලා සම්පූර්ණ මේ ඔක්කොම ශරීරයම පොඩි කරලා මේ හැමත් එක්කම ගැලවිලා ගිහිල්ලා තිබ්බේ. කියන්නේ මූණක්වත් අඳුරන්න බැරි තත්ත්වෙට මේව කරලා තිබ්බේ.
Unfortunately, deadly clashes like this are becoming more and more commonplace in Sri Lanka, causing around 60 people and 200 elephants to lose their lives every year. The big question is, how can Sri Lankans learn to live side by side with elephants? One way to help solve this conflict is to track elephant movements around the country. Finding out where they go and how often will give experts a better idea of their home ranges. For the past 15 years, Dr. Prithviraj Fernando, also known as Prutu, has been fitting elephants with radio collars to collect data on their behavior and distribution.
So we have two collared females here that are coming to the water. That collared female that is just coming to the water is Vanamali, and she has a size 3 juvenile, or baby.
Could Prutu's collaring work lead to answers to the human-elephant conflict? The evidence thus far reveals that he's closer than ever before. So how do Dr. Prutu's radio collars allow him to track wild Sri Lankan elephants? Essentially, the collars are transmitters that broadcast GPS data to a weather satellite, which in turn retransmits the data to Prutu's computers and are logged. This process happens every 4 hours, and the data that's collected is then used to build a model of elephant movements across days, weeks, and even years. Prutu's hard work not only helps him to keep track of individual problem elephants, it allows him to build a detailed picture of the movements and home ranges of large family groups. This means that he's been able to track exactly when the elephants leave their jungle home and where they go. He also makes another fascinating discovery. Many of the wild elephants that gather at the lakes are also venturing into farmland. Could the main cause of the human-elephant conflict be about food? A full-grown elephant needs to eat between 200 to 300 kilograms of food each day. But they only digest about 40% of what they consume, as they're inefficient at drawing nutrition from their diet. People often assume that elephants are like giant lawnmowers, eating everything in sight. But that's far from the truth. In fact, one of the Earth's largest mammals is a picky eater. They feed only on very specific types of plants.
This is all very good elephant food. This plant has grown up in the last 4 months to this height, and these are very thorny plants. These are pioneer species and have very little toxins. So this is very good elephant food, and elephants love this, and this is a very good habitat for elephants.
Besides being selective on the type of plant it eats, it seems that Asian elephants are also more likely to eat new growth plants. And where better to find new growth than at a slash and burn farmland? Slash and burn farming, known as chenna farming in Sri Lanka, is the practice of cutting and clearing an area of forest before setting fire to it and cultivating the land for crops. This cycle is usually repeated for about 5 years before the nutrients in the soil are exhausted, at which point the land is abandoned and a new area is cleared. The new plant growth at the abandoned site, which is non-toxic and readily available, is irresistible to a hungry elephant. In fact, farmlands that grow crops like rice and sugarcane are even more attractive to it.
People have spent thousands of years developing the palatability, the nutritional quality of crops such as rice. And elephants sure appreciate our efforts. They would really love to get their trunks into some of this grain, and hence the problem. And that's why these people have erected this temporary electric fence during the time of cultivation and now the harvesting time to protect their crop from elephants.
So it seems that the conflict between man and beast is linked to the fact that they both go after the same food source and territories. What's worrying is that as the conflict escalates, it could have an impact on the wild elephant gatherings. Solutions are needed fast. In the northern depths of central Sri Lanka, Department of Wildlife Conservation officers have been looking for an elephant that's believed to have killed 2 people in a nearby village. It's taken them 6 days to track down the elusive beast in the forest. The aim is to dart it with tranquilizer drugs before relocating it to a nature reserve. Except there's some doubt if this elephant is their suspect. Its height doesn't seem to match the size of the footprints left in the village. It's too small. Suddenly, a second elephant appears, adding even more doubt. Could this be the one? In the end, the team decides to split into two to handle both elephants. The team use fireworks to flush the elephants out so that marksmen can get a clearer shot. Each team works quickly to secure the elephant while it's tranquilized. They monitor respiration levels and air passages to prevent it from choking and dying from asphyxia. Then the elephant is kept under observation for at least 6 hours in case of drug-induced side effects. Finally, a GPS radio collar is attached so that the team can keep track of its future movements. Then the elephant is loaded onto a truck and relocated to a national park. The question is, will it accept its new home as the researchers hope? The odds are low. The radio tracking reveals that in many cases, relocated elephants try to find their way home, as it's in their nature to have a strong attachment to their home range.
Most animals have home ranges. Their fidelity to home range is directly related to their survival. If it knew how to get back home, and if it wanted to get back home, then it would get back home.
Homie was part of a group of males that called a garbage dump in the southern city of Hambantota home. Residents who lived in tsunami relief houses close by were uneasy about their presence, so the group was relocated. Homie was released around 40 kilometers away in Yala National Park, close to a river with lots of food, water, and female elephants. But even the good conditions couldn't convince him to stay.
He stayed one night there. The next day he set off towards where he was, in the direction of where he was captured, towards Hambantota.
On his way back, Homie didn't just break through an electric fence surrounding the national park. He also ignored another garbage dump that would have made an equally good replacement for the dwelling he lost.
So it was not that he wanted garbage. It was that he wanted to go back to his garbage dump. He wanted to go back home.
Another more tragic case of failed elephant relocation is the story of Brigadier. Brigadier was a young male who raided houses at night in search of stored grain, creating severe damage. After he was captured, Brigadier was fitted with a collar and transported to a national park 126 kilometers east of his home range.
As soon as he was released, he just left the park. He obviously wanted to go back home, but couldn't find the correct direction, and he went up north. And then he actually met the sea and jumped into the sea and started swimming.
At first, Brigadier was thought to be a whale swimming 5 kilometers offshore. But a trunk surfacing to breathe was a surprising giveaway. An elephant lost at sea. Finally, Navy divers arrived to rescue him and brought him safely to shore. Despite Brigadier's dramatic rescue, he was found dead 6 months later, at the bottom of a well he fell into during one of his nightly escapades. If relocation is not the most ideal way of solving the conflict between man and elephants and ensuring the well-being of the gatherings, what are the other possible solutions? Tourism may provide an answer. Sri Lanka entertains between 500,000 to 1 million tourists yearly. And one of its star attractions are the wild elephant gatherings by the country's many lakes. If the industry thrives, it becomes an important source of income and safeguards the animals. This group of visitors have tracked down a family that have gathered by Lake Mineria and Kaudula. But unknown to them, not all behaviour on show occurs naturally. Some is triggered by their presence and the sound of their noisy vehicles. And the situation can very quickly take a turn for the worse. The elephants gathering at Sri Lanka's Lake Mineria and Kaudula feel threatened by the tourists. They quickly form a kind of defensive wall, just like a rugby scrum. With their ears out, they move slowly towards the source of the threat, hoping it will back off. If that doesn't work, one of the older females will break away from the wall and come even closer, usually seeing off the danger. So wild elephant tourism in Sri Lanka, no matter how benign, can be potentially stressful for the animals and dangerous for observers. If carefully managed, though, it may turn out to be one possible solution. But what other methods are there to reduce human-elephant conflict and ensure the well-being of the gatherings? Maybe one solution is to turn what's naturally available into an economic benefit. This is elephant dung. It's being processed at the Eco Maximus Elephant Dung Paper Factory. It's first boiled for a day to separate the undigested fibre from the waste. Then it's washed and pulped before being sterilised and coloured. In no time, it's turned into highly desirable paper items and exported worldwide.
An adult elephant eats approximately 200 kilograms of food a day, and 10 to 12 elephants would produce up to 1 ton. Pinnacle area alone has about 70 elephants, so we are talking about 5 tons of dung that's freely available. Out of that, we would use typically about 2 tons a week. Each ton produces approximately 72,000 A4 sheets of paper. That's a lot of writing that you could do.
Turning elephant dung into paper is a potentially life-changing idea for both man and beast. It not only creates job opportunities in areas where humans live side by side with elephants, it may also help put an economic value on the elephants without harming them. One final solution could lie in unraveling the riddle of the country's mysterious elephant gatherings. And experts think they have found the answer. The radio tracking reveals that gatherings are part of that universal search for food. The elephants are driven by that instinctive need to survive and not the urge to migrate, as previously believed. Elephant gatherings happen only during the dry season, when lake waters are drawn to irrigate nearby farms. Great swathes of grassland quickly form, feeding on the nutrient-rich lake beds. Like the crops grown in Chenna or slash-and-burn farming, this nutritious, non-toxic grass attracts herds of hungry wild elephants, creating the gatherings.
Grass at the height of the dry season is a fantastic resource for elephants. And if you are an elephant, you will be there.
If the Chenna fields and grasslands around the lakes are important food sources, making sure that the elephants continue to have access to them could minimize the human-elephant conflict while ensuring the health of the gatherings. Today, Sri Lanka is home to over 20 national parks where Asian elephants and other wild animals can live safely. These parks have had some success, but sadly, there are only so many elephants they can contain.
There's another group that's coming.
Dr. Prutu estimates that a good 70% of the total wild elephant population live outside of Sri Lanka's national parks. And they live precariously, amongst expanding farmland and developing towns and cities.
Whether the elephant population in Sri Lanka remains, declines, or increases will be decided in the next few years. It all boils down to how much area are we willing to let elephants use. If we are only willing to have elephants in the protected areas, we'll end up with about 1/3 the elephant population we have today. But if we can find ways that let these elephants continue to use those areas that are outside the parks, then we can continue to have the elephant numbers we have today.
So at the end of the day, safeguarding the elephant gathering, and to a large extent, Sri Lanka's wild elephant population, comes down to how people can coexist with them. This is the tough choice that faces Sri Lankans today. There are those who remain optimistic.
1,000 years before, elephants held a very, very central place in Sri Lankan history, culture, religion, and way of life. And I'm confident 1,000 years hence, we will have the same relationship between people and elephants.
But for those who see no way out of the differences facing man and beast, every passing year may be the last time that the beauty and wonder of the great elephant gathering graces the plains.